Thanks for joining us again for another session on the Unlearning Curve. If you want to reach out to us, you can always email us at theunlearningcurvepodcast@gmail.com. Joining me, as always, is Karl the Great. We've also got JD coming in here from halfway across the globe, and I am Stuart Delony. This is our second session after we had already talked with Kyle Butler. Is that right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, had a good time talking with Kyle.
Of a Home Depot.
From the parking lot of a Home Depot. And now,
glad he's not a Spanish guy.
Jesus Christ.
He might have got abducted.
We're already off to it with the ice jokes.
I'm sorry.
Man. All right. So Karl, I think you are the captain of the ship for this round. You're at the helm.
Yeah, I might as well just dive in.
Yeah.
For several months, I had been adjusting to a different medicine and so on. And nights I would feel a little dizzy, but nothing major. And then, it's real hard to explain, but in one instance it was kind of bad, not good. But the next instance it was better. And I don't want to have to explain all that, but just it's kind of confused on my medicine a little bit. But then there was something happening, and I couldn't explain it and so on. So one Sunday night, March 9th, I exerted myself a little too much, and all of a sudden I started sweating. I was really dizzy, felt like my heart was pounding really hard, which I'd noticed a little bit of that, and attributed it to something else or dismissed it like I often do with my health. But I remember kind of stumbling into the living room and calling out to Laura and saying, "Can you help me?" And we went back and tried to get a spirometer to work on my hand to see what my heart was doing, and it was reading really low. And so then I went back out to the living room and said, I think we need to go to the hospital. And I'm glad we did, because I went to the hospital. Laura's, like I said before, she didn't speed on the way there, and she didn't bang on the emergency room. It was almost like, I don't want to upset anybody. And finally, I just pulled my wheelchair up to the glass door and started pushing against it and waving my hand and stuff, because I had a sense this was something serious. Mm-hmm. And so they got me in and started looking at me, and pretty soon the nurse practitioner came back and said, "You're having a heart attack." And behind her was the big gurney. And I said, "Oh, we're going to fly, huh?" And she said, "No, we're going to take you on the ambulance to St. Joe, which is an hour away." Okay. And so they put me in the ambulance, and I think before it even left, they sent Laura ahead in her car, and before it even left, I think I went into VTAC, which means your heart is just doing wild stuff, and if you don't do something, you die, right? So I woke up, and they were saying, "Karl," and I was like, "What?" And they said, "You were gone for a while there." And I said, "Oh," and I was just kind of semi there, and they were doing all kinds of things, and I remember they asked me if they could cut my shirt off at some point, and I started cussing at them, like what the fuck do I care, and stuff like that. But that's about all I remember, and then I kind of went in and out as we went to the bigger hospital. At the bigger hospital, they said I was ashen and put me into the cath lab right away. And I remember, bits and pieces of that. But they ended up doing emergency catheterization, went up through my groin and put a couple of stents in, put a temporary pacemaker in, which is like a tube with wires on it, and left that wound open. And I had to lay like that for 24 hours. But then a couple of days later, was able to walk out or stand up and all those kind of things and take a shower. But so then for this past month, I've been back for stents again, and then an ablation, which is, an ablation means through a dye, they identify those places on your heart that are misfiring, and they cauterize them so they don't misfire anymore. And that is definitely, I can feel that. It's different. And so we finally finished those up. I'll start rehab May 1st. But I really wanted to focus in on one part of that night. And it was when I didn't know what was going on. And I think they had oxygen on me, but it was after I had came back. And it was like, kind of feeling helpless and like I needed to take a deep breath. And it seemed like everything was trying to reset. Mm-hmm. And while I was doing that, I just instinctively started to hum. Mm-hmm. And so I would breathe in, and then I would just go, and it would vibrate like somewhere between my heart and my throat. And that was, I didn't see a white light. I didn't see God. I didn't go down a tunnel or anything like that. But it was just that I was kind of it seemed like, you're just barely here. And that was all that my body wanted to do. And so I wrote about this and I sent that article to you guys, but I know a lot now about the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve and those kind of things, and how, I got a lot of criticism, mostly not for my beliefs or my changing beliefs, but for doing yoga and meditation. Mm. And now I know that basic some people, physicists think there's a basic hum to the universe. It's like leftover radiation from the Big Bang or something. They just think there's a frequency. Some people call it the God frequency or whatever, that vibrates through everything. And because I'd done yoga and meditation, I have no answers really for that night and why I was humming. But I do know there's some scientific things behind it. And I think one of the basic things, a lot of people get bored with meditation. They don't want to go to yoga classes, and yoga classes are hard for old guys. Anyhow, they have to do chair yoga and stuff. But I think one of the basic things that everybody can do is you can hum. Mm-hmm. And it used to irritate Laura because I would hum when I was nervous, But in that moment when I didn't know if I was going to survive and my body seemed to be at ground zero and just trying to move forward. How do I move forward? How do I get back? And instinctively, I started to hum. And so there's a lot to my all that happened in this past month. People say, well, you must have a purpose for being here. I said, that's not what I'm thinking about. It's not like I'm thinking I was saved to be like President Trump getting shot in the ear.
Allegedly.
Purpose. Yeah, allegedly. It's not that. It's not what I was indoctrinated with in religion. It's when people see me, when I go to school and stuff, I just started back with my mentoring, and they don't know what to say. And so I say, I'm alive, and they might say, praise God, or they might, they don't know what to say.
Like they're like, shit.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, damn it.
I didn't like that guy.
But I say, I'm here. Mm-hmm. I'm alive. And my purpose is not to do something grandiose. My purpose is to be here. And we've been conditioned to say that's not enough. Mm-hmm. But it goes back to my favorite saying, be where you are.
Yeah.
And so my purpose is to be here. And that's it, right? And that's enough. That is grandiose. If you've nearly died, you'll understand that it's very important to be. That's the biggest thing. That's the most important thing, is just to be and be there and be present and so on. What questions do you have?
It's not even a question. I find it interesting because it's, when people are like, oh, you came back for a purpose, for a reason. So, but on the flip side, like, what does that say for people that that didn't? God's just like, let's just get rid of this motherfucker. I didn't have any more purposes for him. But Karl, on the other hand, I'm going to put the mantle of righteousness on him, and he's going to go and save a bunch of people. No, but I love that I love you're talking about that, because the om sound too. And then you even saying, like, you said Laura would get upset with you when you would be nervous and you'd hum. That's also, like, that's self-soothing. Like, that's mm-hmm. part of you, like, soothing your nervous system, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Also, and The
vagus nerve runs from somewhere around your ear to down through your body, and it resets, or when you hum. There's other ways, with ice on your chest and things like that can help that nerve reset. But it really affects us, takes us out of flight or fight, and puts us back into rest and, rest and restore. From the parasympathetic to the sympathetic, just kind of switches your nervous system back to equilibrium. I explained that in the blog, if you want to look up the blog in a little more detail, because I can't remember all of them.
No, but I like, because one of I think the points that you're pushing in the blog as well too is the idea that the body remembers stuff better than the mind does, in many ways. Yeah. To where you weren't at that situation, like either like doing like your 5 Hail Marys, or doing a sinner's prayer, or or thinking about theology in that moment. You were just it was incredibly human.
Yeah.
But it was incredibly grounded and incredibly human, and I think that it's interesting when we overly spiritualize it. These situations, we take the humanity out of it, which really steals kind of the beauty and joy of what it is. Like that you were able to, in that situation where everything was bad, you'd given yourself tools before.
Yeah, I've never been in a life-threatening situation per se, but I've been in dangerous situations before, and always my thoughts don't go to prayer or recitations from church or anything like that. It always goes to, what do I need to do right now to survive?
Yeah.
What do I need to get myself out of danger? And it was almost like my body was doing it during this time and saying, what's the most important thing is for me to get regulated and start beating normally again, and I don't even know how to explain it really, but it was just a gut instinct of, what do I as a human need to do, not what do I need God to do for me.
And I think some of that is because you have lost some of your faith in God, because if you had maintained that strong faith, I think God would have showed up there. I think we should ask the question, why didn't you see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah.
Did you smell sulfur a little bit too?
There's no light for you anymore. There's flies buzzing around your head. Smells of sulfur like Obama. I would also say,
I mean, that's what they... Go ahead.
Yeah, if I'd... So you got to take that all the way out to the end, though. For a religious person, I didn't just sit in my living room and pray to God that He would save me.
True.
I would have been very dead.
I'm glad you didn't, because you probably would have fucking died too. Because
yeah, exactly. It's there's still miraculous, mystical things that happen. Such as me, that nervous system that kicks in and so on. I'm good with all that, and I'm good with miraculous things happening. And why did I say, let's go, we got to go, and how did I sense that, and all those things. But when people do that, when they say, they just try to inject God in every part of that to make God sound good. They ignore, as you said, the humanity. And we just talked to Kyle. He's big on that. He talks about understanding your humanness and trusting that and those kind of things. That was what saved me. The workers, the emergency workers, the first responders, the nurse practitioner that was there, all those things. And if you want to stop and give credit to God, then you just dismiss all their training, dismiss all of my intuition, dismiss everything human about me, and just say I'm at God's whim. Then, why even eat right? Why take medicine? Why do anything? Just, I'll die at 25 and let God be in control. I know that was a rant, but
people also argue that that's better. They're like, the earlier if I die young, well, then I get to heaven. Who knows? I've never died, but my guess is that's not really what happens. And I think it also it's kind of like something that I think is kind of ingrained in the U.S., which is just kind of this like anti-intellectualism and this lack of curiosity. And I think it hurts, kind of what Stuart was saying earlier. I think it like hurts. It takes credit away from people like you were saying, Dad, but it hurts people's ability to understand the world. Like, it makes us dumber. And I think it's really frustrating to me, because there's some of those things that are intuition and stuff like that, but there's also part of it that's just evolutionary biology. Like your body understands how to handle itself, and it's not perfect, right? Where some people, like you say, they might freeze in a situation where they should fight or they should run or whatever. Speaking of, it does sound like you like to fight a lot when you have these sorts of medical things. Because I remember when you had your seizure, didn't you try to fucking punch somebody too? This time you're swearing at people. Last time, I guess you're getting better though, because you did try to punch someone that time. This time you're just swearing at them. So that's progress. And see, you should give yourself credit for that.
I bit someone when I had a seizure because they were trying to.
I didn't know you bit someone. I heard you
open.
threw a punch at somebody. Mom said you threw a punch.
Oh, yeah, that
It may
too.
have been
But
both.
Okay.
I did bite someone because they were trying to hold my mouth open, and it's not what you're supposed to do for someone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, that's inadvertent.
During my, I told Laura, when we were trying to sort through all this in our head and recapping it, I said, fortunately and unfortunately, I was taught to push through.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So pushing through makes me persistent and accomplishes things, but it also causes me to ignore my health issues and my mental health issues and things like that. So I always have that struggle. And if you ever have a stroke, if you ever have a heart attack, things like that, those kind of root things in you that wants to fight will come out. Mm-hmm. And times have been very combative. They say I'm a good patient, afterwards, but when I'm kind of semi-unconscious, then I'm fighting.
Well, that's the fight or flight mode you're in.
Yeah.
You're in the fight part.
Yeah. I
It's
try not to analyze it too much, or I stay awake at night, every night, trying to sort it out.
But I think what you're even talking about, there's an importance to being grounded. There's an importance to being able to self-regulate. Because I'd read something recently. It was about how animals, when they go through traumatic situations, a lot of times, like in the wild, their bodies just naturally just shake, and then it's done. Like that's just they just whoop, and they're able to move on from it. But we hold on to those things, but I love like you even getting back to your you're talking about spirituality as like a lived experience here, as opposed to spirituality as like a set of dogma or other stuff that we're given. And I feel like this feels like a very real thing. This is the meditation you have done kind of came out in that situation when you weren't even paying attention to it. You'd done a lot of this work, and it was kind of sitting there, and your subconscious or whatever else knew what to do. And I find that fascinating, and I think that gets lost when people just think about, well, why do we do meditation? It's to clear our minds. No, it does something deeper to us as well, too. Like you mentioned the chanting or other things. It's something older, it's something primal, it's something very human. Yeah,
and I was trying to breathe, and my heart was trying to beat on somewhat of a normal level. That's very root and very basic. And even contemplating why God was not responding or what he should do, that would just bring anxiety, and it would take me away from what I needed to do right then, which I couldn't even consciously articulate or anything right then.
But I love that. This part, like, it just sticks in my head so much, Karl. Like, all this stuff, have all the time in religion and stuff that we've tried to shove scripture and dogma and theology and beliefs into our head, and it doesn't ultimately do a damn thing besides just tickle our brains intellectually or bludgeon them intellectually a lot of times, really, for us to believe it.
To be afraid,
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, but I mean, these are the things, these are the tools that you've been working on for mental health and for otherwise. These are the things that help you in that situation. It wasn't like, what did, I don't know, Ezekiel 5:30 say in this moment? No, that's not going to calm you. Like, remembering that scripture is not going to calm you. It's what you're doing to engage your body in it as well. Because if you were freaking out, you're not going to regulate your heart, and it's only going to make it worse. Like, if you were even panicking more than that, it was just going to make things worse. But you found your grounding.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think that's a lot of what you and Laura have preached for the longest time as well, too. Is mental health and having those kind of tools. And I don't know, I just think it's amazing that that's something that was at your core that just came out.
Yeah, she and I have been working a lot on communication lately. Oddly enough, after 37 years of marriage, we're still working on communication. And it's still usually always boiled down to what triggers us, and then, how much we're just staying in that dysregulation. And just more and more I'm convinced every day that self-regulation and some meditation. I mean, like I said before, most people get bored with meditation. Their minds just go everywhere and have monkey mind, but there are probably some things that work for you. And I want to suggest that humming, that's been around for thousands and thousands of years in all different kinds of belief systems and customs and different climates and all over the world. And they were onto something, right? Even before we had so many religions.
But isn't it funny how Christianity would tell us, like, that type of humming or things like yoga, we're going to, like, bring us, like, oh, it's the slippery slope, Satan's going to get a hold of you for doing that. Yeah, but it's humming.
Yeah.
How the fuck is humming satanic? It's like, it's just, it blows my mind how controlling, like, the situations and systems that we were in. To where even to the effect of, like, oh, we're leaning, we're stretching, we're moving our bodies, we're humming, we're meditating, we're doing all of this. No, that's slippery slope business right there, folks. That is some high control bullshit that we were raised around.
Yeah, absolutely. But
it's also kind of the idea. Go ahead, JD.
No, I was just gonna say, I think. Even you think about, but Christians do it too. Like you're like, especially your mom would walk around the house singing songs, right, all the time. You and some of your other relatives, Dad, like would, or like your grandma, and things like that, like yeah. So that's what I was also gonna say. Let's be honest, you're pretty autistic, so it's partially also stimming, if we're going to be clear about that. But, like, me too, it's okay. My autism score is pretty high. I'm not diagnosed, but, anyway. But I think that's something that we all have to find, are those things that can calm us down. I have a bunch of students that do different things. Some of them, sometimes it's humming, sometimes it's, like, making noises or doing things with their hands, whatever. You can find things that work for you, whatever it is. But I think ascribing, like Stuart, like you were saying, ascribing this ridiculous meaning to it, or saying it's going to invite, these negative things or demons or whatever. It's like, how much fucking control do you need over people's lives that you can't just let them hum to themselves at their, when they feel uncomfortable? Like, Jesus.
Yeah, calm themselves. Yeah, it's true.
Well, it's because they want to keep you in a state of anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what Kyle talked about a little bit with hell. And I definitely felt that I talked about it with you guys when he dropped out of the call. The same way. It's like keep people in fear and anxiety, and they'll kind of do whatever you want, especially if you don't let them fucking regulate.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Which is only going to lead to more health problems.
Yeah.
Like you're creating mental health problems in people. I mean, that's but we're the only ones that have the answer. Keep coming back.
And physical health problems, because those mental health problems, they, like, we have somatic illness, like it manifests in your body as well. Like, it's just the way it goes. And or even if you don't want to go that far, like just you don't sleep as well, not getting good sleep, not eating well because you're stressed out. Like all those things lead to bad health and bad health outcomes. And then they just tell you to pray it away. And I mean, there's some, if you want to talk about studies, like there is some link between believing in a benevolent God and like prayer, but not believing in like the evangelical God. That shit does not have evidence for doing anything good for you. Not that I've seen anyway. Feel free to send us studies. unlearningcurvepodcast@gmail.com, motherfuckers, if you want to send us some hate research. Anyway, sorry,
that's the funny thing too, when we're thinking about these practices, like prayer. I don't know why this is off top, but prayer, like, how is this different than people that are trying to manifest things? Like in woo-woo culture, it's like, ooh, if I just believe and I'll manifest this in front of me.
Yeah.
It's the same shit, but one's evil, one's good. But we're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's because we decided it is, and we think we can make money off of it. But yeah, totally agree. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
It's what is that fucking book that Oprah was pushing for a while? I can't remember the name of it, but it's the manifest shit. I think it's silly.
But The Secret. The Secret.
The Secret. There you go. You got it. You nailed it. There we go.
Yeah.
I think that shit is pretty woo woo. But if people, I mean, it's the same thing as like writing a journal, writing a diary or something. Like, there is something to like thinking about things, and then you focus on them, and then you quote unquote manifest them. Now it's a lot easier when you're a fucking billionaire like Oprah, but there's something to that, like chasing goals, setting goals. Like I know Dad's been real serious about that, and like that's something I've tried to do well, is like write down my goals, think about my goals constantly, like what do I want to do? That's good. But yeah, when you get to the next step of it's like mystical or something, or it's magical, and like if you just do it, then you get Olsteiny. Like if you plant the seed, then you just it's bullshit. That once you cross that threshold of like it's anything more than like, hey, it helps me focus on something or it helps me calm down. Once you pass that, if there's anything magical about it, then it's like, okay, that's just bullshit. You feel free to believe in it if you think it helps you and if it actually helps you, but like there's no fucking evidence for that. Anyway.
It can pretty easily become bypassing,
Yeah.
For sure.
Mantras can become bypassing really, really easy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I can, if I have a mantra, if I'm focused, if I'm goal setting, if I'm doing all that, I will accomplish some things, but sometimes we accomplish the wrong things, and we bypass our mental health and all those things. Yeah, when you take it too far.
Yeah, you got to.
I will say one thing too, Karl. I want to give you a compliment for all of this, because I feel like that was probably a situation where you kind of felt like you were at your worst, and you were fucking practice what you preach, brother. I'm saying, but you're at the worst moment, because I feel like oftentimes with other pastors and other stuff, when we see something goes wrong, people freak out and they don't practice what they preach. They just descend into whatever they're kind of used to, because they don't really believe what they're saying. Yeah. But this was you literally practicing what you preached in probably one of the worst situations you've been in. Mm-hmm. And that that's your whole mantra is like, what is it? I have it here from your thing. Be where we are, be who we are, and be at peace. And I feel like at the core, if you strip everything else, that's what you did, and that's what you've made your life about. And I think that's interesting. In those situations where all hell breaks loose, you kind of find out who people really are.
And through my stroke and through my heart attack, kind of being on the other side of religion, I've have more peace. I'm able to navigate those situations better. I don't fall apart. I don't need 17 people to pray over me to make something happen. It's just the basic survival skills that we need. And I hope those keep refining for however long I'm still here. Mm-hmm. Laura wants me to grow old with her. Mm-hmm. That's a tough ask because her family lives in 90-something. Okay. They all live to be 97, and my family, barely makes it through retirement. So we're just trying to improve on that. But I can honestly say that on this side of Christianity that my survival skills are better. And I don't expect anybody to believe me, but thank you, Stuart, for recognizing that.
I would also like to say your grandma is getting pretty old. Your mom, my grandmother, she's living a pretty long life. She's pretty healthy. So hope that those genes also exist in you. So.
Sure.
But
and I think some of the genes things too, like genes exist also. I mean, it's a lot of this isn't genes. Some of it could have just simply been lifestyle choices people have made too,
for sure,
over the course of things like
and stress from being in the church so long and other things.
Raising 3 teenagers.
Yeah, sorry. I'll take at least some of that credit. It's okay. I'm free of that. I've given up guilt. But Stuart, you praised my father, so I would like to do the opposite for you, because you're clearly have given up the faith. You said Ezekiel 30. There's no Ezekiel 30.
I don't know if there is one.
There's not.
Making it
However, I will quote Ezekiel 13, because I am a forgiving man, which is, then my anger will cease, and my wrath against them will subside, and I will be avenged. And when I have spent my wrath on them, they will know that I am the Lord, that I, the Lord, have spoken in my zeal. I can't read tonight. Anyway, there was something else I wanted to say. Does anyone else have anything to say? Because I have two quotes. I'll end with the other one, because this is my apology for the last session. I'm currently whipping myself. Self-flagellation. Lastly, I think, Dad, tonight you've really reminded me of Elvis Costello, who once said, "I find humming very useful."
I've never seen that before.
Probably because it's an inane quote, but I mean, I think the quote from the Bible was one of them. My quote at Stuart was the first quote. But anyway,
Yep.
I think it's
It was.
I think it's great, and I think it's good. It's
I accept the rebuke.
okay. I appreciate that you accept the rebuke, but I think that it's very important to find, like you were saying, find those little practices, whether it's humming, whether it's singing, whether it's whatever it is for you, those things that can calm you down. Because, and also the other thing I was thinking about earlier when you were talking about this is, it's important also to start dealing with these things as opposed to just bypassing them, because as you start to work, and I talked about this a couple months ago with exposure therapy, is once you can kind of work on controlling those things, you can get into those situations and you can start find what are your triggers. And when you have these sorts of problems, or just, I mean, obviously health events are not like a trigger or something, but when you feel these things, what works for you, and also what's causing it. Again, with a health event, it's maybe you don't need to worry about what's causing it. It's just your body is having some sort of issue. But you can figure out, what kind of things work for you, and then trust your body for the most part. And when you don't, then go to a health professional, not a fucking pastor.
Yeah, I wanted to add one more thing to the whole health discussion. So during the first episode, they had to put that temporary pacemaker in, and it had to kind of be open. I don't want to gross anybody out, but when they did that, they made me lay flat for 24 hours. And the same thing happened during my stroke, when my arm was hanging down and so on. It's amazing how fast atrophy sets in. And even in this last thing where I noticed very quickly my affected foot that has trouble, and needs to stretch and things like that. I was just down for a few hours, not able to move my lower body to let everything kind of try to heal real quick. I'd say the same thing about it. It's amazing how fast my foot declined, and I needed to get back on stretching and walking to the bathroom and things. So I signed a waiver that said, I can't sue you if I fall, because I didn't want to lay in bed any longer. Just you atrophy. Yeah. And so I kind of want to connect that to religion in some ways. We say, well, the best thing you can do is nothing. Just pray and wait. And we do that for years and years and years. And I think there's a part of us that atrophies. There's a part of our our intuition, whatever you want to apply to that. But letting go and letting God, however you want to phrase all of that, sometimes there's things we need to do.
Yeah.
And it's not how you earn anything.
Yeah.
If you don't think for yourself, if you don't study, if you don't do what you can, if you don't think for yourself and skip church instead of doing what they say, I think there's all kinds of atrophy that sets in over the years, and I'm thankful that we're moving away from that. There are actual benefits, like physical benefits, to doing what you can, right?
Amen.